Next one I'm going to talk about is the other fighting game I actually have been playing and that I knew is going to be a must-buy. Street Fighter 6. That's how the guy says it. He goes, Street Fighter 6 on the title screen. Hey, wouldn't you know it? Crazy news, guys. The game's really good. I can't believe it either. You know, I was going this whole last, what has it been, a year, thinking that this thing was, I was really, really shaky about it, but no, yeah, of course, everyone knew this game was going to be really good. Excuse me. Everyone knew this game was going to be good. And you know how you knew? Is because they were confident. They were bold. Now, part of that is because, the entire roster got leaked 12 hours after the reveal, but hey, actually, it even goes more than that because they didn't show off the whole roster. They actually held off on actually showing all of the characters for a while, but they were very open about showing off the game's systems and the content and the world tour. Well, they kept the world tour a little bit under wraps because I think that was the big mystery they had. They showed off enough of it to get you interested, but not just everything about it. Right. Until we started getting closer to release, and then we pretty much knew everything about it. But with the actual gameplay systems and the drive system and everything, they were very upfront and they were very transparent and just told you. They just dumped information onto the website and into videos and little explainers and things like that. They put out multiple betas for people to check out the game. They put out a demo. They are not trying to hide behind anything with this game. And they knew that they had something good. And it's pretty cool to see a team that is so confident in their work. So yeah, I've been playing it. The game's great. It's great. It is in short, especially if you're listening and you're not a fighting game person. It is, or you're you sometimes, you're not a big fighting game nerd like me. It is the most uncomplicated yes I could give to a fighting game. Whenever someone asks, should I get this game? And it's a fighting game. There's always an asterisk behind it, right? Like when Strive came out. For me, obviously, yeah, I'm going to get the new Guilty Gear game. But if you ask me, should I get Guilty Gear Strive? I don't really know. I know fighting games. I just haven't really gotten into them. It would be I'd be okay. I would say, okay, I got it. It's a yes with an asterisk. It's yes if you're okay with there not really being that much single player content. Yes if you're okay with it mostly just being online stuff. And also the lobbies are bad, and you're willing to put up with that. In match, the netcode's amazing, but the lobbies kind of suck. And sometimes they break, and sometimes the game is broken for 2 months because of a crossplay update. If you can get through that and it still seems interesting to you, then yeah, sure. And you might very well enjoy it. But there's always an asterisk. Street Fighter 6, I guess also Mortal Kombat game. I guess NRS games in general are just very crowd pleasing. They have things that appeal to everyone. They check all the boxes, right? They check all the boxes that yeah, you can basically recommend it to your friend who isn't super into fighting games and knows what a meaty is and stuff like that. Oh, my neck. Oh, my back. I've been in a little slouch position for too long. SF6 is the most uncomplicated yes. I can just say, yeah, no, the game's really good. The game's really good, and you will have some fun stuff to do and mess around with and check out if you are really into online play, and even if you're not, or if you're interested but you're a little inexperienced, or you're worried about being inexperienced. I really think the game covers as many types of player as it has to for this kind of a game. Like, yeah, is everyone gonna love it? No, of course not. Some people are just not interested. But oh my god, such a bigger just market appeal than like any previous Street Fighter game. I guess since like 2, but it was 1991. So like, what the fuck else are you gonna play? So obviously, yeah, the game. I guess I should talk about. I'll talk about the single player stuff first. So, World Tour mode. I'm not done with it. I'm only a couple hours in, but surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, I really liked it. I liked it more than I thought I would. I was just I'm one of those guys. I just get the game and I don't touch the single player and I just go and play online. That's who I am. Unless it's something that I care about because I'm a big nerd for Guilty Gear lore and I go watch the 5-hour anime movie that comes with the game. The 5-hour machinima that comes with the game, I should specify. But I decided to check out World Tour mode, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought that I would so far. I really like exploring the city. It seems like a relatively small, very dense environment. I'm assuming there's more stuff. I'm assuming it expands because the map. I've run into some dead ends where the game, like, it really doesn't look like a dead end, and then the game says you don't want to go any further than this, and then it literally turns you around. I'm like, okay, but I see on the map, I'm like, it seems like there's more stuff, and there's already literal roadblocks in the way on some of the streets. So I'm assuming the further I get, it's going to open up. But like, even from just what I've played so far, I really like how dense the city is for how small the areas are. Everywhere looks cool. It's not like a bunch of, it's big and there's like 100 identical buildings. There's like interesting little things. There's there's like a bay you can go walk by. You can see San Francisco across. So I guess, are we like in New Jersey? Is Metro City just New Jersey? There's like a little like garden area around there. There's like Ken's boat from Street Fighter 3 Second Impact from his stage there at the little marina. And then like, yeah, the Chinatown area. And then these little streets that have like, they just feel active. The city feels very populated. There's a lot of NPCs. Everyone has names. You can walk up to anyone and fight them, which is honestly, I think what makes the city feel so lively is that not only is there like a lot of, some neat looking areas pretty much everywhere you go, but also every single NPC is interactable in some way. There's like a handful, I think, that you can't really interact with that much. Or maybe you can only talk to them, but like 98% of the NPCs you can walk up to and fight, and that's like the coolest part of the single player is that you can just walk up to anyone and start a fight. And there's also, in addition to that, just like hoodlums who will run up to you and start fights regardless. And the fights are... So I mentioned this... I might have mentioned this on the podcast earlier. I don't remember. When I played the demo, which was a demo for the World Tour mode, largely. When I played the demo, I was running into... And this was on PC. I was running into some slowdown issues during fights in World Tour mode. And I was a little apprehensive about starting it now. Just because, like... Yeah, it was put a bit of a damper. Like, I don't want to play running in slow motion. It seems like in between then and now... They have patched whatever issue that was. And now I think I experienced slowdown like the first fight I got into. And like one time after that in the few hours that I've been playing. But really nothing very bad or unplayable. And the game runs just fine now on my PC, which is like a mid-tier PC. I have like an older graphics card and all that, like 2017. Should probably upgrade that. I need some more RAM too. Goddamn. But what really helps is that when you transition into these fights, the fights are very snappy. They're very quick. Enemies don't have that much health. They're over within, at most, like 20 seconds. So there are these very short battles where you always have there's always some kind of goal. Enemies have like loot drops. They can drop items and things like that, but you have to fulfill requirements. Like this enemy basically only does an overhead attack, and I'll get to that in a second. They only do overheads, or this one only does lows. Block the overhead twice. Block this one's low attack twice. Throw this opponent. Hit with some multi-hitting moves, something like that. Basically, little incentives to earn rewards that are teaching you things about the game and how it works. Probably told this story before, but when I was first getting into fighting games, with the first game I really learned, which was Skullgirls, I would go online and I was so frustrated because I didn't understand why things were happening. I didn't understand why I was getting hit, for instance. And then I went and actually played the tutorial, and I realized they explained the difference between high and low blocking and like lows, mids, and overheads. And I was like, oh, it makes so much sense now. And now I don't just have to be frustrated that I'm getting hit. I can actually understand. And now I can start now that I understand what the problem is, that I'm not blocking low or I'm not blocking high. I can actually start to work on the problem and improve my defense and things like that. And that was like such a key moment for me to understand. Now I know what a mix-up is. Now I know how to look for them and do them myself. The player who is just going through World Tour mode and wants those rewards, they're gonna look at the requirement for that, for like a specific drop. It's gonna say block low, or like block the low attack twice, and they're gonna think, how do I block that? How do I do that? And then maybe even if they don't get it in the moment, they can go look it up or something like that, or they can go look at the in-game tutorial, and then they'll know. And it's like it's these things that are, if not directly teaching the player, guiding them towards the answers. Like, hey, this is a thing that exists. This is like a whole system that's integral to the game that exists. If you want these rewards, you should go learn about it. And that's great. Lots of stuff about like punishing moves. There's this whole very cinematic, like Tekken style punish counter thing in World Tour mode, where enemies will do certain attacks and they'll have a little white glow around them to represent that they're in a very, very long recovery state. And then if you hit them during that, you get this big zoom in and pop and sound effect. And then you basically, it's like when you got a crush counter. Yeah, crush crouton. It's when you got a crush counter in Street Fighter V where they're just like super vulnerable for a second. And you can do whatever you want. Like big, good feeling hit to get. Which, hey, it's like a very exaggerated form of it, but that's how punish counters work in the game when you go play online or versus other people, right? So, like, cool, great, like, actually cool stuff. And the fights are snappy. They're pretty fun. It's just a generally fun game to play. Game feels good. Moving feels good. Hitting stuff feels good. It has a weirdly tight, I will say this, I was talking to some people about this, a weirdly tight special cancel window that I found kind of strange coming from modern fighters, even a lot of older fighters. The game has a very tight special cancel window. Like, you gotta buffer some of this stuff in. Like, if you're not ready, I was dropping, when I played the open beta, I was dropping combos so much because I could just not do the specials fast enough. I was what? I was like, it was weird because like in every other game, I feel like I would, if this was Street Fighter V, it would have worked, but not in this game. And I had to go ask someone like, hey, is the special cancel window in this game like weirdly small compared to most other games? And they were like, I think it is, was the answer I got. But also like, yeah, I don't know. It's a little hard to tell, but it feels like it. It really feels like it. That's like the one like weird thing I would imagine they would just leave it pretty open, like 5, and honestly most modern fighters leave that pretty open. But yeah, it's like the one tight thing about the game that I just found a little weird. But other than that, yeah, I guess I've already started talking about. So World Tour, from the few hours I've played of it, thumbs up, pretty good. I've heard that the the story's not very interesting, which is like, it's a Street Fighter game. They never have very good like centralized stories, which is why they never do them. Or the only time they do them is like 5, where it sucks because it's weird, because Street Fighter has never had a centralized story. I'm actually like, I sort of wish that they hadn't even tried to go for some sort of overarching thing in World Tour mode, because Street Fighter V has a very bad story mode, and one of the reasons it feels so weird is, from a storytelling perspective, is because Street Fighter has never had a big centralized narrative. It's always told its stories through like individual character stories. Like every character's arcade mode, that's just like the format, and oftentimes they would overlap with each other, but this wasn't like Blaze Blue or Tekken or something that had like pretty like all-encompassing story modes, or a lot of the Mortal Kombat story modes, even in the 3D era. That just never has Street Fighter really told its story. I was thinking that if they were going to do something like World Tour, I was like, oh, that's a perfect opportunity to just make a bunch of relatively, self-contained, probably smaller scale character stories with each of the Street Fighter characters. Kind of like a really, what if like the social links from Persona was like the whole game, right? And it was really fleshed out. That's what I imagined it would be. And hopefully the next time they attempt something like this, that's what it is. But, yeah, I mean, whatever. The game is just, I find it pretty enjoyable. It might get old for some people, like, just running around doing missions. It's got a decent, like, loop, and there's, like, stuff of like getting rewards, getting missions, and then getting new clothing, getting new moves from characters, leveling up, and getting points to spend on like a big RPG skill tree. And all that stuff's really cool. And it's got and the whole time you're going from point A to point B, and there are things happening. It's not just mindless walking. You're like fighting guys, or you see someone and you go challenge them to a fight or something like that. There's a guy named like Big Pablo, and you go beat his ass for like $10, and then he just gets up and walks away. So they're always doing something, and that's cool. It's a pretty good feeling mode. I like it. Yeah, thumbs up for me. Very good effort on that. And then for the online itself, I've had a great experience. I've been playing Marisa, who was the character that I knew I was just going to really like. And yeah, I do really like her now that I've gotten the feel for her. Big brawler character with big damage. And, relative to this game, unfair frame data. This game has terrible frame data. There's so much shit that's punishable or just like negative, so you can't just like spam it on block all day. But Marisa does have like, she's got stuff that is not really punishable or leaves her in like a pretty decent situation, or she can like delay it. She has a lot of moves that she can charge that often have armor on them. So like you do a little like target combo, little medium punch into like charged Gladius, which is her like big forward punch special. And then you like charge that a little bit, and they try to challenge you because they think they see an opening, but then oops, they just hit your armor, and then you just boom, and then she has this really cool thing where which I've surprisingly not seen from too many like armor characters, like characters that have a lot of armored moves. But if she absorbs something with one of her armored attacks, it like does more damage. So when she's doing the Gladius punch, if she absorbs a move, it goes into like this special animation where it like zooms in. If you fully charge it and then it like absorbs something, it goes in this like zoom in animation where she like decks you right in the face and blows you up like way further back, and it does a lot more damage. And that stuff's really cool. I like that a lot. That's like a cool way to reward you for mixing up your timing and punishing your opponent for not respecting the pressure. That's cool. She's really fun. She, funny enough, has I didn't even realize this till I really got into her, to like try and understand her moveset. She has very similar weaknesses to Dudley. She is very similar to Dudley in a lot of ways. Dudley is a character who has these incredibly overwhelming strengths. He has great plus frames. He does really good damage. He gets a lot of really strong situations off of his basic combos. He has really difficult to react to high-low mix-up, like basically impossible high-low mix-up. Basically impossible to react to. And he's basically held back entirely by the fact he has really good supers. He has great EXs. He has good anti-airs. He has really good standing pokes and all that. He is just held back entirely. He has good defensive options. Like, he has so many strengths, but he's got no low pokes. He is just horribly, horribly bankrupt in the low poke department. No reach. He literally doesn't use his legs in any of his attacks. Very like, you know, like his longer range moves like crouch heavy kick and crouch medium kick have like don't even have like that much range, or like they're crouch medium kick is like not an amazing poke. It's very punishable by a lot of characters. It's one hit. It's easy to parry. It's slow, but like yeah, that's like he's held back by that, which makes, just by itself, makes him difficult, like a little difficult to contend. Like playing against Chun-Li. Chun-Li is such a, you play against so many characters, you feel so powerful as Dudley, and then you play against Chun, and she just fucking destroys you because you can't do anything about her crouching medium kick. Marisa's sort of similar, but without the incredibly overwhelming strength. She isn't quite as strong as Dudley in that sense. But she's pretty, like, her strengths are pretty strong, and her weaknesses are pretty decent. She feels really good in that sense. Like, she feels like that character I always end up playing, that very stable mid-tier character. She has decent anti-airs, really just one. Crouching heavy punch. She has, like, pretty decent like standing pokes. She has good target. She has a lot of target combos that are good. She has a lot of she has some really cool combo potential. Like, she can do a fuck ton of damage. She can blow you up, and I think it's really fun. She has a really fast, unreactable command grab. Like, that thing comes out the fastest. I went and checked in training mode. Oh, the training mode. The fastest I was able to get her command grab out was like 5 frames, which is like really fast. You can't even, it's the one that she can do out of her like little guard stance. She does the guard stance. If she gets hit by something, it has armor, and then she'll just like boom, and then just kind of like lunge forward, do a little counter attack. Which actually is also, I think, pretty good for an anti-air as well. And then she can do an overhead and a low out of it, and also a command grab. Yeah. Some interesting, weird, just like random notes. A lot of weird, like, not Street Fighter isms, if that makes sense. So, a lot more down inputs in this game than I think any other Street Fighter. Down inputs are like a very, I always think of like French bread when I think of down inputs. or something like that. Not Street Fighter. Also, a lot of very like KOF style follow-up moves with follow-ups, like not Rekka sequences, but like follow-up sequences. Like Marisa, for instance, she has that quarter circle back punch move, which is her big uppercut, and then she can hit forward and punch to do the big slam down afterwards. That's a very like KOF SNK style follow-up thing. Like they really like having, when I think of like ArcSys games, they have all their follow-up moves just be like a button. You just do like one button. SNK, to me, usually they have their follow-up moves be like a direction plus a button, because SNK really likes to, I've always felt like SNK fighters really like to make their special move inputs like expressive for the character. Have you ever noticed that? Like, they have this thing where there's like this association in SNK fighters where like Rekka specials are like have this aggressiveness implied in them. So like Iori's always had this Rekka sequence. You're doing these multiple quarter circles and things like that. And when Kyo starts to go through like a bit of a personality shift in the series. I forgot like what specific game but he gets his Rekka, right? He goes from having like a standard like fireball, like a very standard Shoto type of moveset, and now he's got this crazy Rekka sequence with like all these different enders and things like that. And I feel like it's supposed to imply that he's like a little darker and he's going through some stuff and he's more aggressive. I always thought that was cool, but it's like a very SNK thing for them to do. Where they also, they like having follow-up moves have some kind of direction, because it's like, and it always matches whenever you see visually what the move is. You can see, okay, that's why you hit that direction, in accordance, with the button press. And it's just like, it's not a bad thing at all. I think it's cool. It's just Street Fighter usually doesn't do that as much. No, I feel. They'll usually do. I'm trying to think. Like I think like Karin in 5, she has her slide forward shoulder move, and she can do that into like, just like a single button follow up, or she can do like down and punch. I think is one of the inputs. It's like an alternate, right? I don't know. A lot of the characters in this game are really cool. Like, so much just like combo potential, just straight out of the gate. I did like some of JP's combo trials. He can combo out of his throw by setting up the little like reality tear. And then he can set it up behind you, throw you, and then the spike shoots out of the tear, and he can launch them. Or to like juggle them in the air, and and then you can combo off of it. That's so cool. I was like, this is such a cool looking character. He's got some every character in this game has some really cool looking combos. Really fun stuff. Marisa combos are fun too, like just smacking people up and down and like bouncing them off the ground and all this stuff. Charging up moves and hitting them. It's a boom, this big freight train punch. Yeah. Oh, and to speak on all of the different audiences that this has been appealing to, the modern controls have been like an overwhelming success. You have seen, there's so many more people, like, there's been examples of this in other fighters, right? There's like, I think of like stylish mode from Guilty Gear Xrd. And in that game, like, no one uses stylish mode. There's a decent number of people using modern controls, and I think it actually seems, I'm not sure exactly why. I'd have to probably think on it a little more. Maybe leave the comments below what you think the difference is of why people are actually using modern controls. It could just be that they're pushing them and they make it the default when you start out. You have to manually switch to classic or like set your preference in the options. It's worked out tremendously. And one of the things, it's like, okay, there's a bunch of discussion about like, is it like too strong? Is modern controls this or that? And like, to be honest, I read these comments I've read multiple comments at this point that go something like, hey, I've always been interested in fighting games. I've loved watching them. I think I always liked watching Street Fighter, but I have this like physical disability that makes it impossible for me to play the games for very long. Like I can do quarter circles and things like that, but I get this really bad pain in like my hands or my arms when I do it, and I've just never been able to play them. And now with modern controls, I can finally enjoy these games. I can finally enjoy like a Street Fighter game. And like, in my mind, that makes it so worth it. That makes it so worth the implementation. Like that's really, genuinely really cool. And that makes me happy. And I never even thought about it as that kind of an accessibility feature. And there's like I've read a lot of comments from people saying like, yeah, the modern, I've always been really intimidated by fighting games, but the modern controls seem strong enough, or they seem like I can actually like get into the game. And I think that's actually fine. I'm actually okay with that. That it gets people into the game, and it is actually strong enough and viable enough that you can actually get by and play pretty well with modern controls. It still stands to be seen, whether or not one is better than the other or something like that. I've actually seen some people suggest that there's literally different play styles for characters depending on which control type they're using, which I didn't see that much explanation on. But that is like a really fascinating idea to me, that because a character gets different options because of the control style that they're using, that they could play totally differently. And I don't know. I think it's cool. This has been the best received fighting game in years. It's been like the first fighting game to crack like a 90 on Metacritic since like Smash Ultimate, I guess. I don't know what MK11 got on Metacritic, but like, yeah, I saw 6 has hit a 92, which is like insane for a fighting game. That's really that's really impressive. Most of the time, reviews for fighting games are like, well, diehard fans of the genre are gonna love it, but maybe casual players won't have that much to enjoy, or they won't have quite as much to enjoy in it. But now we finally hit the tipping point. It has been really cool. Another thing that's kind of neat, just an observation. Usually whenever a fighting game comes out, there's like immediate talk about tier lists and characters who are strong and people complaining about this and that. Even in games that are relatively well balanced, like Strive, people will still complain about stuff. I have been really surprised. Maybe I've just been ignoring it, or I haven't run into it or something like that. Maybe I've just been lucky. I have not really seen that. There hasn't been like a big villain character of the game. Like, yeah, they're like, playing against Kimberly, playing against JP, I'm getting zoned, I'm getting mixed. But that's just regular stuff. That's just like, you got to learn the matchup and shit like that. You just got to get used to fighting them, kind of thing. Not the same level of like, soul far slash, y'all are getting tight about a +2 mid. Man, this has been so cool. Man, fighting games are doing so good right now, man. Man, it's good. I've had a great time with it. If you're on the fence about the game and it sounds interesting, this is probably the one to get into. This is the one to get into if it looks at all cool to you. Also, it's like $60 and not $70, like the trend has been. So that's neat. Capcom's been like the one big publisher that's held it, on going to the $70. So I'm going to $70 retail price. So that's cool. Yeah, it's just like a genuinely pretty good time. The online's really good. I've had matches on Wi-Fi that were like pretty decent. That were like pretty playable. Oh my god, dude, you cannot go 5 minutes without finding a match. Sorry, 5 seconds without finding a match in this game. Like, the queue times are insane right now. Like, way more than I've seen for any other fighting game on launch. Like, I was sitting in training mode with the matchmaking toggle on. And just trying to, like, lab some stuff for a sec. I could not go more than 5 seconds without getting a match, which is, like, fine. But at a certain point, I had to turn it off to be like, okay, can I lab, like, an anti-air combo real quick? Can I practice, like, can I just try this out real quick? It's been super cool. There's so much good stuff to talk about with this game. Pretty much everything is positive. And the training mode is incredible. It's like the best modern training mode. This is the game. Okay, there's like this obnoxious thing with being a fighting game fan where there are so many advancements made in the genre by individual games. Some games have like these amazing training modes. Some games have these really great single player offerings. Some games have this like amazing online. Some games have really full featured lobbies and stuff like that. And then there's just never been one game that had all of it. And it's always been a caveat. There's always been an asterisk next to the yes. Right? It's like, wow, I love the way this game plays, but it has terrible online. Or, man, this game has great online, but the fucking lobbies don't work at all, and it has no single player content. What game am I talking about right now? Take a guess. We still defend Strive in this podcast. I still like Strive. I wish it had these fucking annoying ass problems fixed. I probably never will. And this is like the first game that has had like everything good. It has this incredible fully featured training mode. It has a very robust, very different single player mode for a fighting game. It has really good online. The lobbies are really good. It has the battle hub area, which is like cool. I haven't really done anything over there because I just like to queue up in training mode. It's my style. But like, hey, the battle hub's a cool little social space. That's neat. It's like a little arcade, and there's like a chat. It's like a Fightcade lobby, but in 3D and with more stuff to do, with like little games you can play on the side and a little shop where you can buy clothes for your avatar. Like, oh, great, perfect, exactly what you want. Yeah. No, it's the whole package. Big recommend. Big happy with that one.